So I've seen a lot of conflicting opinions about this in several videos, tweets, and posts about it, so I may as well throw my hat into the ring. Except I don't have a hat, all I have is this stupid PNG chair and PNG computer. So for those of you that don't know, Angry Joe has disabled comments and ratings on a few of his videos due to an insane amount of backlash from his fanbase for not making angry game reviews. He's recently made a video on the topic explaining why he did it, and though it's been received mostly positively, there's still a lot of people that aren't happy with his decision. I know a lot of people haven't taken to this too well and have called him out for what he's doing, and naturally, knowing the kind of content I make on my channel, I'm sure you're all expecting me to join in and say pretty much the same shit. Weirdly enough, however, I'm actually on Joe's side on this one. Now, the natural first response in this kind of a situation is to say that Joe is a cuck, he's an SJW, and he's been blue-pilled. While there's an argument to be made there, I guess, which I honestly am against, I just think he's severely misinformed on some topics. When it comes to this situation, I honestly think he's in the right. Let me explain. Angry Joe's most viewed, highest rated, and arguably best content are his angry reviews. Though there were a couple I've disagreed with him on, in general, I feel like he makes stellar breakdowns of high and even low profile games and can make them seem like the best things ever or the most awful abominations on earth, and he does do so in a very entertaining way that's practically impossible not to enjoy. Recently, however, he's done only one of the most sensible things ever and branched out and started making new kinds of videos. This is something that not a lot of people are a fan of, and it's not any new phenomenon. Every time, and I mean literally every time, that Joe makes a video that isn't an angry review, people lose their collective fucking minds. And while in any ordinary situation I could at the very least begin to sympathize with those people, in this case I really can't. The reason being that most of those people losing their shit aren't actually offering constructive criticism, but rather are going out of their way to shit on him for the sole purpose of not making a review. When you really look into the comment sections on his videos, you come to the realization that these people aren't just unhappy because of the actual quality of the content, but specifically because it's not an angry game review. Joe is known across YouTube as being a game reviewer, and many say it's his own fault for that, but honestly I say otherwise. If you go all the way back, you come to the realization that he didn't release his first review until nearly a month after the creation of his channel, and by that point he'd made not one but 9 videos that weren't actually reviews. 2 of them not only had nothing to do with video games, but had nothing to do with movies or TV shows either. One of them was a video of him making a parody of a shitty dancing video on old school YouTube, and another was him having a fake green screen argument with Bill O'Reilly. His 10th video was his first angry review, and if you scroll through the whole list of videos on his channel, you come to find that between almost all of his reviews, there's a wealth of videos unrelated to angry reviews at all. He made vlogs, parodies, skits, commentaries, and a lot of those things had nothing to do with gaming. To put this into perspective, Joe has, as of the making of this video, 1,083 videos. Only 113 of them are angry reviews. That's less than 10% of all the content he's made. So while his reviews may be his highest rated and definitely his most liked, it's never at any point of time in the past 9 years been the focus of his channel. The reason why I bring this up is because there's this idea that Joe doesn't make enough reviews or is lazy, which I view to be invalid criticism, much of it coming from people that don't make YouTube videos, or if they do, it's coming from people that don't put much effort into them. Here's the reason why I'm on Joe's side on this one. I've been making videos for the past 6 years across what was originally 3 different YouTube channels. I had Wolf Game Walkthroughs, my first one, which I abandoned for a few months to make a channel called Dishonored Wolf. Then I ended up going back to Wolf Game Walkthroughs, changing my name to the Dishonored Wolf, gaining 4,000 subs, leaving to make this one, deleting my last channel, not deleting the other one because I forgot the email and password, and eventually getting to where I am now. Over the course of the past 6 years, I've learned a lot about how YouTube functions and how content creators go about their business, and I've been subscribed to so many people and watched so many different videos that I've seen how all of this ends up panning out time and time again. Whenever someone deviates from the norm, no matter if it's Angry Joe or not, and whenever someone is making a universally loved style of video, people will bitch and moan when they aren't getting exactly what they want when they want. I remember when Arbiter617 was making his Rise of the Spartans machinima, back when that was still his normal channel, and those videos were massive. We're talking about being over an hour to 2 hours long. Understandably, with astronomical amount of video editing required to make those videos, it would take months for him to get to the next episode. During the time in between each episode, he'd make Let's Plays and commentaries and even a couple parodies so people would have at least some kind of content between the long waits. And I remember even then, people would downvote his videos and talk shit and even claim he quit making Rise of the Spartans when he didn't come out with the next one on time. The issue Angry Joe is having is one that many big YouTubers have experienced at one point or another. Once they do something that gets big, people only want that, and will get pissed off if you don't make what they want. What this really comes down to is a sense of entitlement spawned in part by the lack of understanding of how genuinely difficult it is to make a good YouTube video. Sure, any dumbass can make a video on their phone, open up the YouTube app, give it a title, and click upload. People can literally scream the Universal logo for 7 seconds and get millions of views, while people who actually put time and effort into their content get a few thousand. It's low-effort content like that which leads people to believe that video making isn't all that difficult, and that someone is just lazy if they don't make the content you specifically want. Here's the reality. Making a YouTube video with any semblance of quality or effort takes a lot of time to make. It's not just some simple thing. Sure, anyone can turn on their Elgato game capture, record a shitty piece of gameplay, and talk over it, but the hand-drawn animations, huge video essays, complicated skits, and yes, even Joe's angry reviews take a lot of time. Let's throw out some examples. While I can turn on the broadcast button at any time and live stream, which takes no video editing whatsoever and is uploaded on YouTube's part after the stream is over, I like to make videos with a bit more effort involved, mostly being reviews, responses, or Media Reloaded. Let's look at my last Media Reloaded episode on Sheep and Wolves. This video was 23 minutes long. My average Media Reloaded review has become progressively longer as the series has gone on, ranging around the 15-minute mark, with the exception of open season since I covered 4 movies in that video, hence why it was half an hour long. To make one episode of Media Reloaded, I begin by searching for a movie, downloading it from some site, opening up a Google Doc, and I begin watching it while writing the script for the video. Sheep and Wolves was about an hour and 20 minutes long, but I spent roughly 3.5 hours getting through the whole thing because I kept pausing it to jot down notes and timestamps and fitting in what I wanted to do with the script. By the time I had finished the script, we'd gone 4 hours of work just to make a video on an hour and 20-minute movie. After that, I go through the whole thing twice to make sure there's no grammatical or spelling mistakes to make sure I don't trip myself up while reading it aloud. Then we go into recording it. For me, I cut around 40 to 50% of the audio I record, both due to me re-recording certain lines or because I stumble over my words at some point and had to cut it out. The audio file for that video was roughly 45 minutes long. By the time I had finished going through the whole video, cutting out what had to be cut out and splicing the clips together as best as I could, that had added almost around another half hour to my time. Now we're talking roughly 5 hours and 15 minutes. Then I had to spend time looking up pictures, music, video clips, and all that shit to use in the video. That can range between half an hour to an hour depending on how difficult it is to find the clips or videos or pictures that I need. Just to cut it back, we'll say it's another half hour. Now we're at 5 hours and 45 minutes, and that's playing it safe. Then comes the longest part. Editing. I put in the audio and then have to go through the entire 20-minute track and put breaks in between where I want to insert photos, videos, songs, anything. Then I have to import the movie and all the clips and shit that I want to use, cut them up in such a way that they'll correlate with what I'm saying, reuse clips at certain points to make a joke or reference to something, use specific effects if I want to tell a joke and use some kind of parody or whatever. Then I have to go through the video multiple times to make sure that there's no blank spaces or audio cuts, and even then sometimes I'll gloss over something important. Now we're at nearly 8 hours to make a single 20-minute video, not counting the rendering and upload times. But Joe takes it a few steps further than I do. He has to make sure he's effectively using the chroma key on his green screen so it's not editing any part of himself out. He has to make sure that the camera angles are showing up correctly, that the shot is positioned just right, that the lighting is perfect and doesn't conflict with the tone of the video, uses special effects, orders costumes and props, and all the while needs to find or create backgrounds, keep in mind consistency in his camera work, work, and on top of it all, even though he scripts out his videos like I do, I know from experience with my own green screen in the past that trying to read a script while staying in the shot and paying attention to the camera is difficult as fuck. I'm not an actor trying out for a role in a movie. I don't have the time to memorize a script that can get up to 40 pages long. Joe's videos are usually around 30 minutes or longer. Keeping in mind all of the aspects of green screen effects that I had just mentioned, he has to either perfectly memorize his scripts, which even though he puts a lot of effort into his content, I doubt he actually does that, or he has to read it bit by bit and say it perfectly into the camera. And knowing how much I stumble over my own written scripts while I'm just talking to the mic, I know my own issues from my previous green screen experience. I'd guess that it takes anywhere between 2 or 3 times as long to make his commentaries and skits as it does to make my own average video. And that's not even taking into account how much longer his videos are than mine. And that's just for the green screen shit. We haven't even gotten to the editing stages yet, and it's only lengthened by the fact that Joe typically plays longer games. While he's not averse to playing the occasional Call of Duty or Godzilla to shit on it, his biggest reviews have always been on his biggest games like The Witcher 3, Dragon Age Inquisition, Skyrim, Grand Theft Auto 5, and so on. Those are some pretty big fucking games, and you can't just sit down and finish the whole thing in a day or two. Sure, Joe makes some fantastic and hilarious reviews on tiny pieces of shit like Green Lantern and Ride to Hell, but you can tell that he truly shines in his reviews of generally bigger games. And whether you like his content outside of his reviews or not, it's impossible to deny the level of depth he goes into on even smaller games, showing as many examples of pros and cons as he can muster while also providing an informative review of the product. And this is all while making skits which set him apart from other reviewers on YouTube. My Mass Effect Andromeda review was just a little over an hour long, and it took me a couple weeks from the time I started playing to the game to the point that I actually finished the review. And during that time, my cat died, and I had no motivation to play the game or edit that video for at least a few days. While I'm not sure as to the personal events in Joe's life at any given moment, I know that my own life frequently interferes with my ability to make videos. It wasn't too long ago that I said I wanted to stick to a schedule of getting at least 2 to 3 videos out every week, and that lasted for like maybe a week or two before I realized it was an unfeasible goal given the kind of content that I make. Sure, if I was one of the Destiny or Call of Duty YouTubers, I could shit out the most half-assed content ever. I could be like Review Tech USA and clearly not script out my videos, or at the very least not fully script them out, and just put up subpar gameplay footage as a backdrop. But like Joe and all my other favorite YouTubers, I like to make a script and put as much effort as possible into my videos in order to deliver the highest quality content I can make, and I'd like to think, given that I've made nearly 9 times as many subs as I used to have in the past few months, that my quality has raised substantially as of late. So to be perfectly honest, it genuinely irritates me when I see people call people like Joe lazy for not getting out a review all the time. Were there games that came out recently that he could have reviewed? Absolutely. But were they games that he wanted to review? Not necessarily. Here's the thing with personality reviewers like Joe. They review what interests them. With IGN or Machinima or Polygon, you get reviews on virtually every game in existence because it's run by a massive staff of hundreds of people. Unless it's a written review, I don't believe for a fucking second that some random bumblefuck on IGN actually edited together any of their own reviews. With people like myself, Joe, Shammy, I Hate Everything, and so on, it's just one guy doing the whole thing. Joe, at best, has at least one other guy to help him with his skits, and that's about it. With these personalities, you get a certain kind of content from them. None of us are going to review a game we aren't interested in unless it's either so good that we need to say something about it, or so bad that we need to laugh at it. A lot of people have asked me, personally, to review Nier Automata, and I really didn't like that game at all. That's not to say that I think it's a bad game. It's visually pleasing, I like the art style, and the controls are pretty good, but I really did not like the gameplay. It felt way too inconsistent with its constant flipping between a third-person hack and slash and some weird amalgamated top-down retro shooter. Again, that's not to say I think the game is necessarily bad, but it's just not my thing, and I wouldn't be able to review that honestly. That goes for a lot of different games. If I'm not super invested in the gameplay or style of the game, then I'm not going to play it, much less review it, because even if I think it's an alright game, if I don't personally like it because it's not my thing, then I can't in good conscience write a review for it, because my personal bias would get in the way of the objectivity of the game's quality. quality. One such game would be Obzu, a game that I think is visually gorgeous, has great sound design and a musical score, and is incredibly immersive despite its cartoony design. But I really don't find walking, or in this case swimming, simulators to be fun. I think the art style, voice acting, music, sound design, and storytelling in Telltale's The Walking Dead is fantastic, but the reason I never finished the first season was just because I hated the gameplay. For me, to review those games would be intellectually dishonest, because I would likely give it a lower rating just because I didn't enjoy it as much as the games I like to play. Sometimes there'll be an exception to the rule and a game will simply blow me away with how amazing it is, but for the most part, I tend to steer clear of games whose style I am not a fan of. So sure, even though there were some games that Joe could have reviewed, it doesn't necessarily mean he wanted to review them, simply based on his own personal taste or individual interest. I like first-person shooters, but I'm not for a second going to bother with Call of Duty World War II. So not only is there the issue of his reviews taking a lot of time and effort to make, but sometimes, even though you may want him to make a review on a particular game, he may not want to do that game just based on his own taste. I saw people say it was bullshit that he didn't review Dark Souls 3 just because he wasn't a fan of it, as though it's his fault for it not being his taste. But then there's just the simple truth that sometimes a certain style of video gets old. It stops being fun. On my old channel, I used to make a lot of responses to SJWs, feminists, and generally stupid people. Those videos had a lot of views, but as time went on, it stopped being fun. It just wasn't what I was passionate about, and it wasn't the kind of video I liked to make. I wanted to talk about video games and movies and even books, because even if the thing I was talking about was dog shit, I love the subject so much that I want to talk about it, compare and contrast it to other pieces in that medium, and critique it fairly and honestly. And while sometimes I'll throw in the occasional response to an SJW or incorporate it into another video, I rarely make that kind of content anymore because it's not what interests me, and it's not what makes me happy. Joe has tried other avenues before. He tried making shorter, rapid-fire reviews, which didn't have the skits and didn't go quite as in-depth, but he gave his personal opinion on the game and showed enough points to cogently get his opinion across and offer a good review. But people didn't like that, so he stopped making them. Then he wants to talk about movies and TV shows because it's something he loves and cares about, and people give him shit for that too. He tries vlogs, people give him shit for it. He tries Let's Plays, people give him shit for it. He tries reactions, and even though the vast majority of the video is him talking about the thing and giving his thoughts and opinions on it, people give him shit for it. He even goes and interviews game devs at events like PAX and E3, gives impressions of games, posts review discussions, and no matter what, he gets shit on it. This was largely brought on because he said at the beginning of the year that he really wanted to try and stick to a schedule of getting a couple reviews out a month. This is the part that really irritates me because the arguments I've seen are unbelievably dishonest. Joe never swore up and down like people are claiming that he'd stick to this schedule. He explicitly said he wanted to try and stick to it and experiment with the idea. This was the same mistake that I and many other YouTubers in the past, present, and definitely will in the future have made and will continue to make. Sure, there are people that can shit out consistent gameplay commentaries that are all basically exactly the same, but when you have someone that likes to make diverse and in-depth content, it's borderline impossible to stick to that schedule. And still, we're coming up on August and Joe has already made 10 angry reviews, which is already coming up on more than he made in all of 2016, and I'd say he's made a damn admirable effort with uploading a steady stream of content while making a conscious effort to appease his fans. A post on Reddit has actually put this perfectly. Joe's been making roughly as many reviews this year as he has on average every year, and has, again, almost made more reviews this year alone than he had in the last few years individually. And we haven't even gotten to the September to December months where a fuck ton of games come out all at once, several of which Joe has expressed serious excitement and interest in. The reason I mention this is because it's not that Joe is uploading less angry reviews, since that's already been demonstrably proven to be false, but he's uploading more movie reviews, interviews, discussions, reactions, and so on. He's been uploading a steady stream of content every week along with his live streams and interacting with his fans on social media. He's now admitted what a bad idea it was to try and go by a schedule because he simply can't commit to it because of how long it takes for him to make his reviews. In order to keep angry reviews fresh and not make himself grow to hate it, he diversifies his content in order to talk about things he likes and cares about, as well as to allow his fans more content so they aren't left hanging for weeks on end between angry reviews. What I've come to find is that there's this sick sense of entitlement from people on YouTube. If they don't feel like they're getting exactly what they want out of their free content, then they get pissy about it, regardless of how the YouTuber feels or what his or her personal reasons are for making new kinds of videos. For some reason, I guess a lot of people haven't figured out that there is such a thing as not being required to watch every video by your favorite YouTubers. I love Joe Rogan's podcast, but I sure as shit can't watch even half of what he puts puts out. Of the last 100 episodes, I've watched maybe 10. When it comes to Joe, unless he's talking about a movie I'm similarly interested in or is interviewing a game developer that I like, I usually just wait for the next review. Not long ago, my favorite podcast, The Drunken Peasants, started uploading clips to their channel between episodes in order to gain more attention and show people the kind of content they make. And even though they didn't change their podcast schedule at all, people got pissy at them for uploading the clips that they could ignore at any point of time. I can only be glad that I've made it perfectly clear that I make whatever the fuck I want rather than getting trapped in this box where I feel obligated to make something I don't care about. And while it's not even half of what I make, I still love to make Media Reloaded episodes and live streams because it's fun for me. I have a few huge video essays I'm working on, but they're all going to be around an hour long. And that takes a lot of time that I don't always have, hence why I can't stick to a schedule either, because I have too much shit to do with work, college, and my own personal life to spend hours on end every day to get the next video out. So honestly, when Joe puts up with the same shit year after year of people telling him they hate the content he's making just because it's not angry reviews, and when he even offers an alternative so he can still review more games with higher frequency and consistency, he still shit on it, I honestly don't blame him at all for getting pissed off with his fans, who really are just entitled little bitches that are completely ignorant to the process behind making a video. I love Lyle McDouchebag, Shammy, VivzyPop, and I Hate Everything's videos too, but they take a shitload of time and effort to make. They put astronomical levels of energy into their videos, so they're always the best they can possibly be. And that's not even taking into account their personal lives, because as crazy as it sounds, YouTubers do have a life outside of YouTube. I myself have been trying to work on my writing, but between work, school, my personal life, and trying to make a steady stream of content on YouTube, I haven't been able to write anything in the past several weeks, and coming up soon, I'm probably going to change that, and it's probably going to take a small hit to my upload schedule because there's shit I want to do outside of making YouTube videos, and the same goes for Joe. And while I don't think that disabling comments and ratings is necessarily the correct way to go about this, I don't really blame him at all for doing it. I can look at my comments, and if I see something stupid beyond comprehension, I can just ignore it. But not everyone's the same, and I know personally the trap that is the cancer-ridden YouTube comments section. And if you get sucked into it, it can really start to get into your head. It's not like Joe is silencing individuals. I certainly don't think he's pulling a Steve Shives by any stretch of the imagination where you'll just be blocked for even distantly kind of being associated with someone that knows someone that he hates. It's not what I personally do, because I firmly believe that someone that's retarded should just be put on a pedestal so they can show the world how fucking retarded they are. Because if anything's going to destroy an idiot, it's the idiot himself. If this helps Joe clear his head for getting shit on from the terrible crime of making something he likes to make, then I don't blame him for it, because the hate that he's been getting on for making something different with practically no real constructive criticism is absolutely fucking obnoxious. It's one thing if he says something or does something that's objectively bad or negative. It's something totally different when he makes a video talking about Game of Thrones with a couple friends, and the comments sections are infested with people talking shit because he didn't make a review on Prey, which wasn't a particularly good game. Just saying.